So one of the things that we did is and we were just talking about it, is that what's going on with the change in administration. And there's a lot of speculation about what's going to go on where we stand right now. Well, first of all, let me say, changing the administration. The FCC staff, administrations come, administrations go, they're there forever. And so the folks at the audio division who we're going to be dealing with, those guys have been there for a long time. There has been some retirements and such, but it's not related to the political campaign. The chief of the media bureau might change with administrations, but typically not. The head of the audio division, Al Schuldiner, is not going to be changing. I would very much doubt he would change with the administration. And the folks that are below him that we deal with a lot, Jim Bradshaw, is not going to change with the administrations. But at the higher levels and the people that set policy, those do change. But right now, we're in a state where we have two Republican commissioners and two Democratic commissioners. And Interim Chairman Rosenworcel is being promoted or is being supported to become permanent chairman. There's been 20 senators that have written Biden and suggested that she become permanent chairman. She has ties with Joe Manchin. It wouldn't be the dumbest political move on Biden's part to make her permanent chairman. I don't think we'll see a whole lot of changes. She is more regulatory minded than certainly Ajit Pai was. Ajit Pai was, and of course Ajit Pai was very interested in radio. And he liked radio, he liked the radio business, and he did everything he could, as you know, to support AM radio stations by coming up with the AM Modernization Act that gave us all the translators. We don't see the same interest on Interim Chairman Rosenworcel's part in broadcasting because there's a lot of other things that, of course, the FCC has to be concerned about, broadband, wireless, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But right now, there hasn't been a nominee for the fifth position. The Biden administration has basically two choices. It could either name a new chairman, a brand new person coming in as chairman, or it could make Rosenworcel the chairman and name another Democratic commissioner. Both of those actions would require Senate approval. And, is he going to get that through? Who knows? Typically you do. Typically it's gotten through, and typically it's been tied. There's been a Republican and a Democrat. Typically that if you wanted to name a commissioner, it would be tied with getting a Republican with another renewal of the Republican's term, or if a Republican wanted to step down, that it came with the nomination and confirmation of a replacement Republican commissioner. Just say basically there's 5 commissioners, used to be 7, and the party in power has the majority, but the minority party is, I think by statute, is entitled to seats on the board, seats on the commission as well. But long and short of it is, we don't think that the FCC is really even in the Biden administration's radar at all. I mean, we just don't, it's just not, he's got too many other things that he's trying to deal with. Sometimes to put it in perspective, now I've spent all of my professional career dealing with the FCC, but as a friend of mine pointed out, that the FCC has a smaller headcount and a smaller budget than a single aircraft carrier. So it's not everything the be all and end all in the government. So the next topic I was going to hit was music licensing, and so one of the questions that came up is music licensing and fees. Well, I talked to my colleague Karin Ablin. Karen is, her entire career, she is in copyright work and music copyright. She's represented the National Religious Broadcasters Music Licensing Committee in various proceedings before the Copyright Royalty Board. She lives, breathes this stuff. If you have complicated issues, I would defer them to her. But I did get an opportunity to talk to her a little bit about what's coming up. And there is some good things that are going to be coming up. And I would dive for my bag, but I forgot it there with my notes. So I'm going to have to wing it. About what some of the things Karen told me. Some of the good news is that the ASCAP and BMI fees for future years are coming down for your over-the-air broadcast. That you're going to be, and then there's going to be lower fees coming down the line with respect to those music rights. Let me just go back, make sure that people, basic things. ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, GMR. They're what are called performance rights organizations, or PROs. They get three of them, or two of them, ASCAP and BMI, are nonprofits. CSAC and GMR are for-profit organizations. There's various types of, isn't this a slick, aren't we a slick production? I have to be.
That's all right.
The bag while I'm here. By the way, as long as I'm stalling here, one of the things that I should mention is we've got swag outside that's not coming back with me, so I invite you to take it away. We've got some little booklets of sticky notes, pens, dry erase board markers that we would be we would be grateful if you would take some with you. So no. Oh God, no. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, that's right. First 5 minutes free. Yeah, that would be it. Okay. So anyway, again, referring to my notes, there's going to be, especially for smaller market folks, there's going to be smaller scales. The effect is going to be that rates are going to be going down for ASCAP, BMI in the future. CSAC, there actually is going to be an increase in 2023, but it's going to be a lot less of an increase than CSAC wanted before. With GMR, now GMR, let me explain. GMR was started by basically a record producer that was famous, and that he had a lot of big hit people that were with him. And he started his own music performance rights organization. And he has a relatively small catalog, like 40,000 songs are in the catalog. But there are from a lot of people that are very big on pop, well, I won't just say pop, but on commercial radio stations. Example being the Eagles, Springsteen, etc. There's many of their songs are with them. So he's been able from the commercial broadcasters to get a smaller than ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC, but a disproportionately large fees for his relatively small catalog. He hasn't had many contemporary Christian artists, but there are a few things or songs that might get played. An example, some Christmas music might get played. But GMR, because they're a relatively small organization, has not been going after nonprofits very aggressively, has not been going after Christian stations aggressively to get music licensing. They might in the future, but they recently negotiated what was called a fire insurance deal. And what it was is that stations will pay $50 for a 5-year license. Not a year, not a month, $50 for 5 years. And so that will, and I would basically say when it comes around for $50, pay the license fee, and it will cover you for a 5-year period for GMR. And who knows where they may be in 5 years. They may have a lot more artists or a lot more contemporary music on it. And it is not prorated. It will be paid at one time. If you get out of the business in less than 5 years, you're not going to get any money back, but it's $50. So I think that's an important thing. There's, just so it's clear, you pay rights for your over-the-air broadcasting for the performing rights organizations, and you also pay rights for streaming the music over the air to performance rights organizations. The streaming fees will, CSAC is going, in my notes here, CSAC is going to $94 a year. ASCAP and BMI, they're in negotiations with their streaming rights, will be going later, and GMR has put it on the back burner, and they won't be talking to you for a while. Those are, as far as overall streaming rights or music rights, that's the good news. The bad news is that Sound Exchange is going to be upping its minimum fee to $1,000 a year. It has been $500 a year, and it's going up to $1,000. So unfortunately, and that's per channel. So if you are streaming, the minimum, and most of the stations we find are not exceeding the minimum number of performances to have to pay more than the minimum fee. But that fee will be going up to $1,000 a year. If you want to stream, you need to do that. If you want to stream, many people, I've had clients call me and say, I understand this Sound Exchange is just a scam. It's not. They're a legitimate organization. If you want to stream, you've got to stream music. You've got to basically sign up with them, and you need to do it. And they can walk you through what the real burden is, the reporting requirements. But in certain small situations, you can minimize those reporting requirements.
Is their fee over and above what we're paying to screen by ASCAP and BMI?
Yes.
How do they fit into the picture?
Okay, ASCAP and BMI, ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, GMR, they cover the composition. They cover the words and music that are written down on a piece of paper and then performed by someone. They cover that. Sound Exchange covers the sound recordings. In the United States, we don't pay a royalty for playing the sound recording over the air. As you may know, there's been a big push by the music rights industry to get a royalty for playing sound recordings over the air. But in the United States, which is, it's not unique, but it's one of only a handful of countries around the world that doesn't have a royalty on sound recordings being broadcast. But when you digitally perform that sound recording, such as through streaming, there is a royalty. And Sound Exchange is the collective that collects those royalties and then distributes those out to the copyright holders. They also distribute small amounts also to performers. But that's how Sound Exchange comes in. And if you stream music, you're going to need a Sound Exchange license, because I got to tell you, the Sound Exchange audit process is painful. Go ahead. That's not true. That's not true. Right. I mean, the only, if you only played snippets of 15 seconds, you might be, and that's the only music we play, you might be excused. Or you might, more precisely, you probably don't have to pay a license fee, but they in fact still want you to get a license. But if you play more than just those little snippets and everything else is talk, then maybe you don't need it. Okay, go ahead.
And the only music that is exempt would be like library?
Right, production music, because that's what's called direct licensing. And it kind of comes into one of the next things we're going to talk about, which is when you use music in podcasts and such. Fundamentally, if you don't have the rights from the producer of the music and the musician, you don't have fundamentally all the rights to re-record that music, you can't use music in podcasts. Long and short of it, your ASCAP, your BMI, your CSAC, all those rights do not apply to podcasting. You have to get licensed directly. Either you have to actually make an agreement with whoever produced the record or holds the copyrights to the record to do that, or you have to basically contract with the musicians directly and use traditional music. Or, like I say, let's say you want to if you wanted to take a simple one, if you wanted to take a traditional piece of music that was not using a particular copyrighted arrangement, and you wanted to record that and use it as your theme song for a podcast, and you made arrangements, you got a license from the musicians that perform the music, you could do that. You'd have to do those. But if you wanted to use something that was already recorded, you'd have to make sure that you got the rights from the person that wrote the music, the person that did the arranging for it, the people who recorded the performance. All of that would have to be done before you could use music in a podcast. Or you could go to a production house, and you guys have probably been pitched on it. You can go to a production house and buy a production library or write songs from a production library. In any case, the long and the short of it is you can't rely on your ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, Sound Exchange, GMR licenses for music and podcasts. You have to separately license those items. That is quite a rainstorm.
Yeah. Kevin knows how to do the reporting for all of that. I'm just going to say at lunch, come talk to Kevin. He can help you figure out the reporting of it, the different companies that need to be paid because of extortion.
I think that's
Legal
great,
extortion.
and that's a great service that you're providing. We occasionally have clients that come to us, and we are I wasn't going to say we're terrible at it. We're not terrible at it. We got it through, but it's the most expensive way to do it. Don't do that. Go to Kevin. And Kevin says, thanks a lot. So there was a clarification about streaming of a pre-recorded program that includes music. There is a provision in the statute that allows you to have a pre-recorded program that's streamed, but it has to be 5 hours long, and it can only be and it can only be available for 2 weeks. You can have a program that's 3 hours long that's in a continuous loop. Again, I think it's only allowed to be up for 2 weeks. But you can't do a pre-recorded program that has music in it that's available on demand that's less than 5 hours long. So if anybody has a question on that, I think one of the questions here had to do with the GMR. I think I've covered that. Like I say, they're really not going after Christian stations or non-commercial stations yet, but we fully expect them to go after them. So I'm sorry to disappoint, but I'm at the end of my list, so I'm now open for any questions that you might have. Okay, let's start here. Yeah. You're gonna have. I think the likelihood is low. I just don't think that we're not seeing that on the political front. It's not really getting any traction. Just as there was a thing called C4 also, that was the idea of creating a commercial channel that was going to be more than a Class A, but less than a C3, and it got no traction. I'm sorry, I'm at least in what I'm seeing, I'm not seeing any groundswell for LPFM 250. I will mention, by the way, if you can find if you want to just cover a small area, and if you can find a channel in the reserve portion of the band, 88.1 to 91.9, The minimum power a full power station could operate is 100 watts. So if you could find a frequency in your area, you could operate with 250 as a full power station if there's one available. Okay. Yes.
I'm not that soft-spoken. Right? So we do what we call our live stream of our Sunday message. But I was told we have to get it on air at a certain time before it's not counted as live stream, or we would get FCC.
I'm having a little trouble hearing you. So.
See, it's not me. So we do a live stream for our Sunday message for our pastor on our radio station, and I was told that we have to get it on within a certain amount of time, or it does not count as live stream anymore, or we can't call it a live message. Do you know? Yeah, we record it and then replay it.
As I said, these copyright things, they're mystical. I mean, a copyright lawyer can take a single action and break it into 9 licenses. But theoretically, yes, there might be because presumably you'll have music in that. Theoretically, there might be issues with recording that music and then replaying it. But in the real world, nobody's going to give you any guff about that. And it doesn't, if you get it on the air in a reasonable period of time, it doesn't have to be a particular, microsecond or something to get it live. You're going to be okay. I mean, yes, you are recording music. Obviously, you have probably at least an implied license of your musicians. You have the license for the over-the-air broadcasting of the programming. The only thing you don't have a license for are of the compositions. What you only don't have a license for the recording of the compositions for that recording that you're going to use for a short period of time. And frankly, I don't think anybody's going to chase after you, especially if you're otherwise in compliance with the music licensing rules. You've got your ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC licenses. Okay?
So, multiple small stations with identical programming in the same market. Is there a way to only have one music license instead of 2 or 3? We have multiple stations that are small in the same market, but for every full power, we have to pay ASCAP, BMI, CSAC individually. But when they're in the same market and it's the same programming, if we had a big station, we'd only pay 1 license. Because they're small, we have to pay multiple licenses.
And the stations are owned by different entities?
No, they're owned by us. Identical programming, all day long, same programming.
I would have to defer to my colleague on that to see if there's a way, but I think it's a matter of something that you should discuss with your BMI and CSAC and ASCAP representative, and to see whether you can get a single license for that, or that you might be able to get a lower fee because it's really one performance, albeit over several stations.
Okay.
That's probably going to be a licensing matter with the agencies.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, so every year we do a festival called Bridge Fest, where we bring in an artist for one night on Friday. Does not go on the radio, does not go on any stream, nothing. ASCAP always comes after us and says, hey, you got to pay the fee because you're having this, but we're like, we're not putting this on the air. This is in-house. It's just at this other venue in Ocean Grove. We do it there, and that's it. So can you give us some counsel on that? I mean, we've pushed back and said, no, we're not doing anything on the air.
No, unfortunately, that is The performance, the live performance, whether, regardless of the context in which it is done, whether it's from a recording or someone on stage, ASCAP is due their license if some of their music in their repertoire is performed. And that's how they do it. Yeah, I mean, let me give it, when music is played at a baseball park, they have to pay ASCAP, BMI, CSAC, whoever does that. If and indeed, there's classic stories about how various musicians who have sold off their compositions then wind up having to pay rights to perform their own music. Unfortunately, that's within the scope of their.
Really? Because I thought it was the venue's responsibility that they're the ones having them over there. They're not coming here.
I'm sorry. Could you repeat that?
Yeah, it's the venue, right? The Ocean Grove.
Well, they
they're the
probably
ones-
if the venue does it, I guess that's it. Does the
It's
venue
their
have a
venue.
license?
What's that?
Did the venue have a license?
Probably not.
Okay, then they're going to come to whoever's.
Yeah.
They're going to get a license from somebody.
Yeah, because we don't pay them anything. So if they come, they email us. We say no because we're thinking no, we don't owe you anything, and they just go away.
They've gone away. Well,
Yeah, they do. I mean, I don't know what else to say. They haven't been emailing
that-
us or anything.
all of music licensing agencies make some choices about who they're going to pursue and who they're not. But that doesn't mean that you're free to do it. You really should have a license. And I will say that the license is probably not going to be that much. Go ahead. Who else we got?
Okay, what about editing or making edits to music that you already have the rights to? What about making edits to music that you have the rights to?
It's an interesting question that would be probably a derivative. It might be a derivative work, and Get to say that I'm out of my depth, and I will have to refer that to my colleague, and I'll try and get information back to Bill, who can get it back to you, or you leave me your card, and I'll try and get you an answer on that. We got any? And by the way, we don't have to just talk about music. We can talk about anything you want.
In underlaying music under a commercial spot, can you use a song you have a license for in your promotion for an event or a festival? Can you use that song you have license for?
Okay, when you say you have a license for, strictly speaking, your ASCAP, BMI, CSAC licenses, GMR, does not cover music used in spot production. Okay, it's not covered there. So when you say you have a license for, you have a license for the regular performance of it. You can use it as what they call interstitial music. In other words, you use snippets to go in and out of programs. As using it as a music bed under a spot, strictly speaking, is not covered by those licenses that you have. Now, when you say you have another license, I mean, if you had a production company license, you could use that. Or if you license directly, somebody we'll say a traditional song, somebody performed it, and you could get a license from them for that. But you can't use your just regular, your regular music library to use that for spots.
It doesn't cost a lot of money to get a library of copyright-cleared music. Very reasonable, that you can keep in your reservoir and use it whenever you want it.
Right.
And it's for that purpose.
So if you're using it in a spot and the license does not cover that, what does that mean? You got to pay additional to?
Tell me you want to use music in a spot?
Yes.
You need to, as Bill was saying, you should get a production library, that when you buy the production library, it gives you all rights. You can use it in your spots, you can use it in podcast. Typically, you have to look at the license. You can use it in spots, you can use it in podcasts, you can use it in those things. But your regular, if you're using it as in a commercial or a spot, underwriting spot, it's not covered by your music license. A friend of mine many, many years ago wanted to use a Jimmy Buffett song in a spot. It was a television spot. And Jimmy Buffett said, sure, that'd be fine. It'll be $50,000. And so clearly you're not going to do that. And
All right, that's enough for music license. My brain hurts. Okay, do you have any more on your list before?
no, I'm
pass
off my,
on open
I'm
list?
off my list, been off for a
Okay,
while.
so now this is open question, be kind.
So two questions. First is, we have an LPFM, we hope to get a non-com, and we'd like to run the same programming. I was told that if we just change the music bed, that's sufficient of a change that we could run the same program in both stations. Is that correct? And
Well, they just did away with I'm a little cautious because they have to interact with the LPFM rules, but they just did away with the rule on duplicative programming. So two stations can run, it used to be that you couldn't repeat more than 50% of the programming of another station within 24 hours if they were in the same service, in other words, FM to FM. But they just did away with the rule. That was section 733556 for those that are keeping score at home.
that's great. And then you were sharing a little bit of what you think the next windows might be.
The next windows, I think that the next window is likely to be either LPFM, well, actually, I think it might be LPTV, because there's a lot of pressure on folks saying, once you've finished with the repack, that there's people that want to get back into LPTV and get into that thing. So I actually think that the next window will probably be LPTV and TV translators. Then after that, on the radio side, it's either going to be FM translators or LPFM, and it'll be in one. More than likely, they won't do them together. They'll do one and the other. I think because the LPFM people, quite frankly, lobby harder and make more noise, I suspect LPFM will go first. And I would think that that will be at least a year off. If there's a huge number of applications filed in the window for the non-coms, it could be 2 years off.
Okay, this is open question time.
So when I inherited our station here, they had signed a contract, and the way I read the contract and the way that the people who wrote the contract read it is two different things, right? So to get help on that, because these guys don't need to know the gist of it all, would that be something that I could just say, hey, here's my contract, can you read this to me and tell me, are we really locked in? Because for a radio tower.
For your radio tower.
Yeah. Because one of the places it says after 5 years you go to a month-to-month.
Okay.
And then it says, well, it's an auto renewal. And
Right.
So I'm like, well, am I month-to-month or have I been automatically renewed?
That is the type of stuff we do all the time.
So I could give that to you and have you look at it.
Sure.
That would be something to email to you.
Right.
Sweet. Can I email to you now and you can do it for free?
No.
What world are you living in? Anybody else?
I will say that my colleague, Kristen Cora, spent about 6 years doing nothing but tower contracts before she joined us. So she is deep into that area, and we can't help ambiguity. I mean, that's the problem that happens frequently. These contracts may not be clear. Go ahead.
Just send it to you?
Yeah.
And I'll hear from you?
Yes. Yeah. McCormick, this is not to be promotional, but McCormick at FHH Law Who we got? And like I say, you guys can get to go to lunch early, so,
I'm shocked. No more? That's it? Yeah, dead air. Not good. All right, listen, he's headed back to DC. This is it. No more? No mas?
I think this is for the guys back there at the bridge. I used to do a lot of concert promoting, and as the promoter, we took care of the licensing. So, I mean, we had Kenny Loggins, a few other guys that we used to do some outdoor concerts, and we were the promoters of the concert. And our radio station subcontracted, if you will, for us to actually take care of all the details of putting on the concert. Even though we might have said that this was being brought to you by X radio station, it was still, you know, XYZ Promotions, and that was who paid the licensing. And you can get these one-time performance licenses. They're relatively inexpensive until you start performing into these big, large, hi, we're going to be at the, you know, Yankee Stadium or things like that. Then we're, you know, that's out of reach of any of us in this room. So I hope that helps you.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Let's give Matt a round of applause. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's a little early. What do you got, Bill? Bill just posted his contact information on the thread. So, and again, if you're not on the radio thread, please see Bill. He will help you get on, and then you will have no problems with that.